give it just a second. We are good. Give me a second.
I saw the message. It's being live streamed.
Okay. Now,
2 meetings going on at the same time.
3, 2, 1. Let's go. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Can I start and can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you. Yes. Thank you.
Namaskaram to all. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Bharata America Punya Bhumyo Namo Namaha. Agajanana Padmakam Gajanana Aharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadam Tam Upasmahe.
Prayer already.
Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Vedasvinamasi Tamad Vishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Today's topic is Rishi Parampara. Some of you may be wondering that we started with Guru Parampara and we switched to Rishi Parampara. Actually, it is not a switch. They are two converging paths coming to. There is somebody who is talking on the phone. Would you please all mute your mics? Okay, so I'll continue. Rishi means an accomplished and enlightened person.
Mari is going.
Sagar, Mani, please mute your phone. Sanath, you are muted.
Am I muted?
Yeah, you are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
That's not good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Hello?
I will return to the subject.
Ashwat,
Rishi Parampara.
Kumar already talked about it.
Rishi means accompanied and enlightened persons. As we just mentioned, still we have some overlap, so we can wait till this is settled. I'll continue.
Go ahead, sir.
They composed hymns and Vedas, and that is their contribution, which the gurus and acharyas read and then brought all that message to us. Ashwatji will clarify and make it even more clear as to how these two come together under the same topic of Guru Parampara. These rishis who have, after intense meditation, realized the supreme truth and knowledge. Rishi, word itself means to move or flow. So one can ask, is that only a male gender when you talk about Rishi? Not necessarily. The same component of Rishis are what may be called as Rishi in females also. I'll step back. Rishis can also be females. Examples are Yamini, Indrani, Savitri, like Devayani, and similar names will come to our studies. So from here on, I will pass on to Sri Vidyasagar to introduce our Guru and lecturer today, Sri Ashwatji. Thank you. Ashwatji and Sagar Garu, please introduce Ashwatji and we can move on, please.
Sagar Garu, unmute cheskondi. Dr. Sagar has to unmute.
Oh, I know you may not be here. Okay.
Because you are putting this.
Yeah.
We can hear you, Sagar Garu.
I can hear you, Dr. Sagar. Dr.
I
Sagar,
close this one.
Okay.
we can hear you.
I don't hear anything.
No, we can hear you, Manivra. Yeah.
But we can't even see anything. It's totally blank.
Hmm.
We can only see the front Rishi Parampara. That's it. We don't know who is talking. We don't hear
You-
anything.
Dr. Sagar will have to talk now.
Hello?
We can hear you, Sagar Garu.
I told him, he said he's going to check.
As we all know, can you hear me?
That's stupid.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Ashwatji is a Pandit and has been extensively trained in Vedas and Shastras. I will request Ashwatji to start the talk
Somebody's scooping
and
it.
ask Dr. Vidyasagar to say a few words at the conclusion. It looks like there has been
We
a,
don't hear anything.
it looks like he has been having some technical
He
trouble.
says we can see you because he can see us.
So if Sagar Garu, Manivra, will you please mute your microphone? So I'll start my presentation. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Namo Gurubhyaha. This is how we salute our Rishi Parampara, starting from Chaturmukha Brahma himself. And then we also saw in the Guru Parampara, we started with Bhagavan Shiva, Sadashiva Samarambham. Then there is also the tradition of starting with Bhagavan Narayana, Narayanam Namaskritya. So though those three names are different, they're actually the original rishis. And Chaturmukha Brahma created the Sapta Rishis, the 7 sages, who were all the mental creation of Bhagavan Chaturmukha Brahma. So the prayer suggests that I just chanted, they are Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhya. That is, Brahma Vidya is the knowledge of the Veda and all the ancillary subjects of our Vedic heritage. And they are the one who started and established this entire thing. In other words, they are the originators of spiritual knowledge of mankind because of their antiquity. So the question always arises then, in that case, who is the very first Rishi? Because this is Rishi Parampara. Who is the first Rishi? Somebody from whom actual creation of the knowledge base started and the teaching started. We go back to the Veda itself. The Taittiriya Aranyaka has got a beautiful mantra which says,
No, this is a home phone. I'm not attached to the.
On cell phone, we are not calling on phone.
Manivra, will you please mute?
No, I'm not using the.
Yeah, now you are better. Yeah. The Taittiriya Aranyaka has a beautiful mantra, Yo Devanam Prathamam Purastat Vishwadhiko Rudro Maharshihi. Of course, the Shetashvatara Upanishad also quotes the same mantra, Yo Devanam Prathamam. Whoever is the first of the gods, who was existing before everything Purastat. Purastat before of what? Vishwa, of the universe. And that Rudro Maharshihi, that Rudra Maharshi is the very first Rishi. So what did this Rudra Maharshihi, the Rudra, this great sage, did? So let's look at the heritage from the Skanda Purana. Skanda Purana is one of the 18 Puranas, and this Purana is the largest Purana. It has got 6 collections called Samhitas. So among the 6 collections, which is Sanat Kumara, Suta, Brahma, Vishnu, Shankara, Gauri, this is the set of the Samhitas. Of them, there is the Shankara Samhita, or called Shankari Samhita. This Shankari Samhita has got a section called Shiva Rahasya Kanda. In the Shiva Rahasya Kanda, Devi Gauri asks Narayana, who is the first Rishi? And it is from there I have extracted the very first Rishi is Rudro Maharshihi. He is also Shiva. And Narayana himself says, Bhuyaha sa Bhagavan Dhyatva Chiram Shulavarayudhaha. For a long time, Shiva sat in meditation. So you can see many of the iconography of Shiva who is in dhyana. What he did was, Asritata Sarvashastrani Mahadevo Maheshwaraha. He created all the Shastras which the Guru Parampara has been teaching. And therefore, the very first Rishi who provided the material for the Gurus to teach the subjects, it was none other than Bhagavan Shiva himself. And I already gave 2 authorities for that. One is the Taittiriya Aranyaka, the Veda itself, and the Purana, the Skanda Purana. And our tradition says that their students, that is Shiva's student, Shiva's first student was his own consort, Girija. That is why we also say that whatever came out of the mouth of Shiva and went into the ears of Girija is called Agama. Shiva Vaktrabjat, from the lotus face of Lord Shiva. That which went into the awareness of Girija is also called Agama, and there also Shiva was the first Rishi. Then this Rishis created their own lineage of parampara of Rishis, and they all became Rishis as well as Gurus. In our tradition, they say that there were 48,000 Rishis. And a number of their names are available to us in the Vedas, in the Anukramanika, in the sequence of the Vedas, every mantra where we chant who is the Rishi. Then the converging point, as Sanat Kumar was mentioning, we talked about the Guru Parampara. Now we are talking about the Rishi Parampara, because the Rishis not only gave the content for the teaching, but also they created the Gurus. And they themselves were Gurus. But still, we have to distinguish what is the difference between a Guru and a Rishi. As far as a Guru is concerned, his life is dedicated to instruct, to inspire, and to educate his students. Whereas a Rishi creates the content. And then the Rishi takes the mantras and gives it to a guru. And this guru, what he does is, he takes this knowledge and then creates students. And in creating the students for appropriate recipients, he will give a mantra. And thus in gurus, we have got mantra guru. To some group of people, he inspires by imparting knowledge, and that is called a Vidya Guru. Then a person enlightens the mind of the student, he is called Jnana Guru. So one or more gurus can act in propagating the mantras given by the sages as Mantra Guru, Vidya Guru, and Jnana Guru. But the Rishi has a special characteristic, that is, he is also a Kavi. That means he is actually a poet. He is the one who creates. And then these rishis also go about creating gurus and instructing the common people also. Therefore, a rishi can also be a guru, while a guru need not necessarily be a rishi. So the guru and parampara and the rishi parampara converge when the rishi also becomes a guru. Just as an example, if you read the Ramayana, when Rama's Pattabhisheka took place, the rishis came from all the four corners of Bharata. From the east, Vishwamitra, Kanva, and Garga Maharshi come. From the south, Valmiki, Dattatreya, Agastya come. From the west, Vamadeva, Ashtavakra, Shuka, Bhrigu, they come from the west. And from the north, Vasishtha, Atri, Gautama, Jamadagni, Bharadwaja, Durvasa, all of them will come. And then that becomes an assembly of the rishis. And the assembly of the rishis will create an assembly of the gurus. The converging point also we see, one of the earliest recorded point of convergence of rishis and gurus was in the Sri Rama Pattabhisheka time. In fact, many rishikas, the female gender word for rishis is rishika. We also come across a lot of rishikas, that is Maitreyi, Gargi, Ambrini, and many other names that Sanat Kumar actually quoted. Then among the rishis, there are also three classes of rishis called the Maharshis, such as Vasishtha, Rajarshis, such as Vishwamitra, Devarshis, such as Kashyapa, suggesting that the rishi has nothing to do with the caste or with the varna in which a person is born. So how do we recognize this rishi? In our daily ritual called the Brahma Yajna, we offer oblations or tarpana to Deva, Rishi, Pitru, to the gods, to the heritage of the rishis, and to our forefathers, we actually offer tarpana. So there is a beautiful mantra with which we give tarpana for the rishis. Krishnadvaipayanadayo ye rishayaha tan rishin tarpayami. Just as a sidebar, when you give a tarpana for the devatas, you do only once. For example, devatan tarpayami. For rishis, you give two oblations, tarpayami. And for pitrus, you give three offerings, tarpayami. So that is how it is done. And thus, as students of the Veda, we perform this ritual every single day in the morning, called the Brahma Yajna, so that we remember the entire Rishi Paramparas. And then the first Rishi, as I mentioned, was Rudra, Shiva, who gave us all of this. However, the very first Rishi, where we actually have a record of the teaching that was done, we have to think of Vasishtha Maharshi, who was the great-grandfather of Bhagavan Vedavyasa. And Vasishtha was one of the Manasaputras or mental manifestations of Brahma from the vital breath Samana. As you know, there are 5 kinds of breaths: prana, apana, Samana, Udana, and Vyana. Out of that, the even breath that flows in our body, maintaining all the physiological systems, that Vayu is called Samana, and that Samana Vayu of Chaturmukha Brahma, from that Vasishta Maharshi comes, and therefore Vasishta is held in very, very high esteem. The very word Vasishta means most excellent. And many of you might remember that in marriage, after the Saptapadi is over, the husband and wife are asked to see the Big Dipper, in which sage Vasishtha and his consort Arundhati are there. And Vasishtha was the one to whom the seventh mandala of Rigveda was revealed. And one of the greatest mantras that are used universally is Triyambakam Ejamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. That mantra was visualized by Vasishta Maharshi, and Vasishta Maharshi was the one who taught it to his students and their gurus. And he was the one who also initiated the Dharma Shastra. And interestingly, he was born of the two devatas, Mitra Varuna, who get attracted to an Apsara called Urvashi. And then Urvashi and Mitra Varuna union, from that Vasishta is born. Though it is a mental creation, that means there was no carnal relationship. It is just that Chaturmukha Brahma Samana air created Vasishta, and they were nourished by Mitra Varuna and Urvashi. Their foster parents, they brought them up. Then the very definition of the word, it is from the Sanskrit root Risha Jnane, that is, any learned person, innovator can be called as a Rishi. Einstein can be called a Rishi, Newton can be called a Rishi. But in the Vedic context, spiritual wisdom, transcendence from samsara, chastity, self-control, and deeply committed to truth, and sharp anugraha shakti, that is the ability to bless somebody and which becomes true, and the ability to punish somebody which also becomes true. And as I mentioned already, all castes and classes, because of their sadhana, they were able to become and get the status of a Rishi. And then several groups of Rishis are done depending on their work. We have the Sapta Rishis, we have the Brahmarshi. Brahmarshi is one who has realized Brahman, and we have Vishwamitra as part of it, who gave us the Gayatri Mantra, the very well-known Gayatri Mantra, and who was also a Raja Rishi. A Janaka Maharaja is called a Raja Rishi. Then there is also Khanda Rishi. Khanda Rishi is one who has compiled a set of the mantras to help in the study of the Veda. Then we have got Maharshi, say for example, Patanjali Maharshi, we say. Then there are also the Shrutarshi. Shrutarshi means one who is very, very famous. Like that, there are so many Rishis. There is Narada is called as a Deva Rishi. Then one who gives us Veda is called Brahmarshi. We have got Vasishta, Vishwamitra. Then a high spiritual leaders and kings like Janaka and Ajatashatru. And then we also have feminine Rishis are also classified into three groups. That is, those who sang hymns in praise of the various gods, and those who conversed with other Rishis and gods to establish spiritual knowledge. And then, like for example, the Ambrini. So we come across a huge database, if you may, of the names of the Rishis and the Rishi Parampara. So it starts from Brahma, Prajapati, Rudra, and then while he was in tapas, he created all these hymns. And then Rudra, Shiva, is the final authority on all knowledge. And then the sage go to him for instruction. And this is another meeting point. You may recall that in the Guru Parampara, I started with the Shiva Nataraja dancing and his progeny. So Shiva is the originator of the Rishi Parampara, and is also the originator of the Guru Parampara. Then another towering personality is Vedavyasa. Vasishtha Maharshi's son was Shakti, and Shakti's son is called Parashara. And Parashara Maharshi composed the Vishnu Purana, another extraordinary Purana. It is so important that in our tradition they say, what should you study? Vedeshu Paurusham Suktam. You should study and know the meaning of Purusha Sukta. Puraneshu cha Vaishnavam. Of all the Puranas, you must study Vishnu Purana. Bharate Bhagavad Gita. In Mahabharata, study Bhagavad Gita. Dharmashastreshu Manavam. Of all the books of law, we must study Manu Dharma Shastra. So 4 books have been prescribed for all students of Indian spiritual wisdom. And of those 4 books, Vyasa's father Parashara was the author of Vishnu Purana. One day, Parashara had to cross the Yamuna river. Yamuna river is also called as Kalindi. And then he had to cross that river. So he comes across a boatsman whose daughter was actually ferrying everybody back and forth. She was extremely pretty to look at, very, very beautiful. But she had the smell of fish coming out of her body. And that's the smell of her body would be almost 100 to 200 yards. So she was called as Matsya Gandhi. Sage Parashara asks to be ferried across the river Yamuna. And then she becomes the boatswoman. And then as Parashara was looking at this girl, he was quite fascinated by her beauty, but then he was also repulsed by her body odor. So because of his tapas, he actually gives her a boon, and then he converts the body odor into the sweet smell of jasmine. And now his interest in this girl increases. So as they go into the mid-river, he creates an illusion. A huge cloud hides them, and he creates a dvipa, or an island. And on that island, according to the Gandharva Paddhati, Parashara Maharshi marries this girl and gives her the name Satyavati. And their union produced a child, and that child was named as Krishna Dvaipayana. Dvaipayana because he was born on a dvipa, or an island, and his name given was Krishna. So his name was Krishna Dvaipayana. And we have a very beautiful prayer. Jayati Parashara Sunuhu Satyavati Hridaya Nandano Vyasaha. He got the name Vyasa because, as we saw earlier, he was the one who classified the Veda into Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. So the classifier, his name is Vyasa, but actually his given name is Krishna Dvaipayana. And then whatever came out of his mouth in his teaching, Yasya Asya Kamalagalitam, whatever came out of his mouth, Vangmayam, that words, Jagat Pibati, that beautiful nectar the whole world actually enjoys. So this is the meeting point of the Rishi and the Guru. So we saw that there were Rishis starting from Bhagavan Narayana, Rudra, Brahma, and then we had Vasishtha, Parashara, and we have other 48,000 Rishis. We have all the Rishikas. But then one person who was both a Rishi, exemplary Rishi, and an extraordinary Guru, it was Bhagavan Vedavyasa. And this is the reason why in our daily oblations of Brahma Yajna, we do not start from Shiva, Rudra, or Narayana or Brahma in giving the tarpana or the oblations. We start with Krishna Dvaipayana. So Krishna Dvaipayana adiyo ye rishayaha tan rishin tarpayami. And of course, how do we make sure that all the 48,000 are honored? We do that by class, by saying Sarvan Rishiganan Tarpayami. And this is how we recognize the contribution of the rishis every single day. But the same oblations are not offered to gurus. As far as the gurus are concerned, we prostrate before them and we honor them. But ritualistic oblations are offered to the rishis. Then the Bhagavan Vedavyasa had to find students. So he found Shishyas who were very highly disciplined, and he gave Rigveda to a sage called Paila, and he gave Yajurveda to another sage called Vaishampayana. He gave Samaveda to a sage called Jaimini, and the Atharva Veda to Sumantu, and for Shuka, his own father, grandfather, Shuka was his son, Shuka, Vedavyasa's son, Shaunaka, and Suta, to them he gave the Puranas, the 18 Puranas. So we will home in on a dramatic story. Among these sage gurus, Rishi gurus, Vaishampayana, from whom Yajurveda was received, he had a sister. Her name was Alambini. And Vaishampayana's sister Alambini was given in marriage to another very learned guru and sage called Devarata. And this Devarata Alambini got a son. Yeah, they named him as Yajnavalkya. So Vaishampayana's nephew was Yajnavalkya. So this Vaishampayana, where was he? Our records show that he was in a place called Vardhamanapura. And this Vardhamanapura in Gujarat, in today's Gujarat, it is in a place called Vadnagar. This Vadnagar is also the birthplace of the present Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. In fact, I have visited that place, and there are very beautiful places to see, to feel that it is a sacred land. And this Vardhamanapura, this is where Yajnavalkya Maharshi was born. So Vaishampayana started teaching to all his students. And one day, a meeting was called of all the gurus. And that meeting was held in Badrikashrama in Himalaya. And when this meeting was called, they imposed a punishment for those who do not attend. They said, whoever doesn't attend will get Brahmahatya dosha. Brahmahatya dosha means it is the crime of killing a learned person. Unfortunately for Vaishampayana, that day happened to be his father's Shraddha, or annual ceremony. So there was a conflict. Does he go to the conference or does he perform his father's Shraddha? The conference can take place without him, but the Shraddha cannot take place without him. And therefore, he chooses to do the Shraddha of his father. And he gets the Brahmahatya dosha. Once a person gets the Brahmahatya dosha, he cannot continue to teach. And that is his profession. So he laments in front of all his students. And then they all say that whatever atonement, the tapas has to be done to free you from this curse, we will do. All the students came forward. Sir, please do not stop teaching. Because if they stop teaching, that is the end of the tradition. Then Vaishampayana's nephew and then gets up. By that time, what was it that Yajnavalkya had achieved? Because of his extraordinary brilliance and the grace of his uncle and guru Vaishampayana, he had already studied Rigveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda thoroughly. All the three he had studied. So he had become a Trivedi. And now he had enrolled himself with Vaishampayana, his uncle, to become a Chaturvedi, to get all the four Vedas. In the meanwhile, this incident happened. He had a little bit of self-confidence. Yajnavalkya had a little bit of self-confidence in saying that, why waste the time of all my classmates in doing the penance for the Guru? I can do it alone, so that all of them can continue this study. So only one person will be missing the classes, and that's all right. I will catch up. This did not sit well with the Guru Vaishampayana. He thought that Yajnavalkya was arrogant. He was belittling the other classmates. So in spite of all the love that he has got for his nephew, he got extremely angry with Yajnavalkya, and then he said, "Get out of my class. You are dismissed, and whatever you have learned from me, you give it back." And then Yajnavalkya accepted the challenge, and the legend says that he vomited all that he had learned. In this sense, he actually taught it to his fellow students, called the Tittiri Maharshis. And then some of the sources tell me that the Tittiri Maharshis were two great persons who wrote the sutras, called the Apastamba and Bodhayana. Two Apastamba and Bodhayana are supposed to have been those Tittiri Maharshis, and the branch of the Veda that was abandoned by Yajnavalkya was called as the Krishna Yajurveda. The reason it is called as Krishna Yajurveda is it contains mantras of both hymns and prayers, as well as the procedures of doing the yajna. So now Yajnavalkya is on a limbo. So he has actually no guru here, but he has not completed the Yajurveda study so that he can become a Chaturvedi. So what is the recourse? He goes to the banks of the Saraswati River, which is not too far from Vadnagar. Unfortunately, Saraswati has actually gone underground. You can only see some patches of the Saraswati River in Kurukshetra and such other places. And also you can see in southern Gujarat, Prabhasa Kshetra. But he goes to the Saraswati River and worships and prays to the sun. And the sun, the Narayana behind the sun, will take the form of Hayagriva. Hayagriva is the horse-faced Devata, Narayana, and he himself teaches Yajnavalkya, and a new branch of Yajurveda was created, and that is called as Shukla Yajurveda. Here is another connecting point to Guru Parampara and Rishi Parampara. Yajnavalkya got instruction from Hayagriva. You remember that in the Guru Parampara, we also mentioned Hayagriva as the first Guru, as Narayana. So yes, an interesting point to note is only two people in our heritage got direct instruction from Surya. One is Yajnavalkya and another is Hanuman. So that is why there are two of them are considered as immortals, and then they are considered as the progenitors of all knowledge. So what about the rishis in the class of the kings? In Mithila, this Mithila is in present day southern Nepal, northern Uttar Pradesh, that area. In that, there was a king by name Janaka, and this Janaka, even though he was a king, was also a Rishi. Now, Vedavyasa, as you know, also had a son, Shuka. Now, that was also an immaculate conception and birth. One day when Vedavyasa was in meditation, an apsara called Ghridachi will come around, and then she sings in extraordinarily beautiful voice. And for a moment, Vedavyasa's mind is disturbed. And as soon as he looks at Ghridachi, she actually delivers a beautiful baby and then changes into the form of a parrot and flies away. And since this child was born by the glance of Vedavyasa, and then the names his son as Shuka. So this Shuka, right from the birth, was given to spiritual pursuits. He was not interested like any other boys in playing games and then having sport. And then when he came of age to get married, he would not even care about how dressing up. Actually, he was roaming about naked, and then completely becomes a mendicant and a contemplator. But then he was extremely restless, no matter however much tapas he did, however much of scriptural studies he had. This is something for us to note. Whatever scriptural studies we do, whatever meditations we do, whatever puja and yajna do, still our mind is restless. So that is why Shuka was also like that. So he actually goes to Brihaspati, and then he tries to learn from him. And then even that did not satisfy. So finally somebody says, why don't you go to Janaka Maharaja? He's a great sage. He is the one who is ruling the country. He knows what is difficulty, what is strife. So you can get instruction from him. So Shuka, son of Vedavyasa, goes to Janaka. A whole new Rishi Guru Parampara starts there. And it is to the credit of Janaka, when Shuka goes there and says, these are all the things I have done. I have shunned all pleasures, and I have studied all the scriptures. Still, my mind is not rested. Why is that? Then Janaka says, you have not led a sequential ashrama life. And that is why you are restless. So the very first concept of the 4 ashramas was taught by a Rajarshi, who is also a guru. So Janaka Maharaja says, there are 4 ashramas. You have to go through these 4 ashramas. And then only you can get moksha. Then he said, first of all, yes, a student should get initiation as an Upanayana. And in this Upanayana, he has got to be taught the Gayatri Mantra. After getting the Gayatri Mantra, he has got to study the Veda. And then he has to perform the Sandhyavandana. And then please note that the Upanayana and Sandhyavandana was not restricted to only one class of society or only the male gender. It was done for everybody. Everyone had to go through the Upanayana. And in that, after that, they have got to study the scripture, discharging a debt that we have got from our forefathers, from our gurus. This is called as Guru Runa. And Guru Runa is discharged by our studying and teaching. Then they had to do tapas. And by doing tapas, we are discharging Rishi Runa. Then we have to worship Guru by strict adherence to Brahmacharya. Master your Indriyas. Offer Guru Dakshina for the Guru who has taught you. And then you return home taking the permission of the Guru. And then enter into Grihastha-ashrama. Be committed to one spouse. And then you beget good children. You educate them. Make them good citizens. Then when they are on their own, you choose to become the Vanaprastha where you kindle the fire of the soul. Vanaprastha is not just going to the forest. It is to light up the fire of the soul. It is called Vidusho Yajna. There's a beautiful mantra which says, Tasyaivam Vidusho Yajnasyatma Yajamanaha. Who is the sponsor of this yajna? Your own Atman is the sponsor of the yajna. Atma Yajamanaha. And no yajna can be performed without a wife. So who is the wife of this Vidvamsa? Shraddha Patni. It is dedication and faith is the wife. And then which is the fuel that is to be offered in the yajna? Shariram idhvam, our body itself is to be offered. That means in the service of our fellow beings. And finally, at the end of the yajna, a person takes, goes round the circumambulation of the sacred fire. And yat pradakshinam prakramanti, a person, when he goes on this pradakshina, then that is how he destroys all the negative qualities. And he takes a sacred bath at the end of this yajna, and that is death itself. Maranam tadavabhrutam. So Janaka Maharaja actually instructs Shuka that this is how a person should lead one's life. So you can see a Maharshi, a Rajarshi, actually becoming also a Guru, another blending point. There were distinctly Rishis who did not teach, but who created content. There were distinctly Gurus who only taught but did not create any content. Rishis who created only content, Gurus who only taught the content. Then we have the blend of both, where a Rishi also becomes a Guru, and a Guru also can become a Rishi, as we have seen in Shuka and in Janaka. So then this Shuka marries a woman, a girl called Pivari, and the progeny continues. So this Yajnavalkya was actually a towering sage. As I said, Surya himself was his teacher. And he himself was an extraordinary teacher. He had two extremely brilliant students, Kanva and Madhyandira. And that is how we, in Shukla Yajurveda, we have two branches of the Veda called the Kanva Shaka and the Madhyandina Shaka. Actually, both of them were there in this Vardhamanapura or the Vadnagar of today that I talked about. Then Yajnavalkya decides to move to Mithila to be in with Janaka Maharaja, because Janaka Maharaja was constantly holding conferences of very learned people, and he wanted Yajnavalkya to be there. And therefore Yajnavalkya moves there, and Madhyandina sets up his own ashrama. I do not know where, but Kanva sets up his ashrama in this place, Vadnagar or Vardhamanapura. Then I asked everybody who were there, is there any place where we can find where Kanva Maharshi taught? But unfortunately, it is all lost in time. So Janaka Maharaja's, we shift our attention to Janaka Maharaja's ashrama, where again the Guru Shishya Parampara and the Rishi Parampara was merged and solidified. So that is where the Rishi Parampara and the Guru Parampara merged, and we are left with Guru Parampara. And that Guru Parampara happened in Janaka Maharaja's court in Mithila at the same time as Sri Rama was there. And then he goes and marries, as you know, Sita. One of the beautiful conversations, let us look at that. Janaka Maharaja wanted to know about how anything is known. How do we know anything? And an idea was floated that things are revealed to us when we are ready to see. So when you see, something gets revealed. When you look at a knowledge and you want to know that, that knowledge reveals itself to you. So Janaka asked a question, sir, what is that light that illumines a thing, an idea? What is that light? What is that light that illumines? So we start from the known grass. One of the assembled guests answered, the sun. When the sun shines, there is light. It shines on the object, and the shining object is seen by the eye, in which Lord Surya is there. So Surya in the sky illumines the object. The Surya in your eyes looks at the object and understands it. This is why in Rudradhyaya, in the Nyasa, we say, Suryo me chakshushishritaha. May Surya be well established in my eyes. So he looks at that, and then the sun. Then Janaka asks, what happens after sunset? Answer, moon. What if there is no moon? Stars. In the light of the stars we can see. You know very well how stars are used even in navigation on the seas. What if the stars are also not there? It is an Amavasya, night, and it is covered, sky is covered by cloud. How do we see? One of the students answers by Agni, fire. Sir, what if there is no fire? Then one other person says, by speech. Suppose it is absolutely pitch dark and two of us are there, we can communicate by speech. Hello, I am here. In the absence of speech, what happens? Nobody could answer. That is when Yajnavalkya says, it is by the light of the self, sir. Atman Jyoti. Then who is this Atma? Yajnavalkya answers, that Atma is the divine light by which everything is illuminated. The most celebrated Upanishad mantra, Natatra Suryo Bhate na Chandra Charake, Nema Vidyuto Kutoyam Agnihi. All that I said is in, I'm now giving it a Sanskrit original. And then the answer comes, Tasya Bhasa Sarvamidam Vibhati. It is only when the self, the Atman is there, even the sun is illuminated. Isn't it so? How can a dead body even recognize the sun? Because the Atman Jyoti is not there in that dead body. And therefore the Atman Jyoti is the one that actually illumines everything. And hence, the pursuit of Atman Jyoti is the project of both the rishis and the gurus. This is the reason why in all our heritage, we emphasize on spiritual wisdom. The spiritual wisdom which will make us fit for transactional world and which will also make us fit for the spiritual world. So how did the rishis record for posterity all that they visualized? In other words, they created a structured syllabus, the structured syllabus by which the later gurus can actually glean the ideas and then create syllabus for teaching. There were 10 very important books that were created in the Rig Veda. That's called the 10 mandalas of the Rig Veda, the very original source for all our heritage, which was recorded by the following rishis. The number one, first mandala was by a group of rishis who were all students of Vishwamitra. Then we have got 2 to 7 out of the 10 was composed by several rishis, because we had 48,000 of them. And the second was actually done by the Bhargava family. In fact, incidentally, we come from the Bhargava Gotra, and the Bhargava family gave the second mandala of Rig Veda. The third was of Vishwamitra. The fourth was by Vamadeva. The fifth was by Atri. The sixth was by Bharadwaja. The seventh was by Vasishta. And the 50 suktas of mandala 1 and the 8th was by Kanva, the student of Yajnavalkya. You can see that in our Gotra Pravara, we continue to honor all these rishis who have given us this extraordinary wisdom. And the rishis had chosen a life of celibacy. So when they choose a life of celibacy, the problem is such brilliant genes will not get transmitted. And therefore, the apsaras come in the picture. Please do not misunderstand that these apsaras were licentious women appointed by the king of gods to disturb people. They don't disturb anybody and everybody. They come and disturb those extraordinarily learned rishis who have taken a vow of celibacy, and cosmos, Parabrahman, does not want this knowledge to die with them. Therefore, they must give rise to progeny. And that is how we see the very first story of Vishwamitra. When he chooses a life of celibacy, he is actually enticed by Menaka. And what happened to that? When Menaka and Vishwamitra's union happened, a very great daughter was born, Shakuntala, who was protected by Kanva. Please note for a moment that if that was an illicit child, who would give protection? It is for the sake of Loka Kalyana. So the great Rishi Kanva gives protection to Shakuntala, who in turn marries Dushyanta and gets a son called Bharata. Remember, Bharata gave the name for this great country. And that is contribution of Vishwamitra. Another contribution of Vishwamitra is he gave us the Gayatri Mantra. So in summary, Rishis gave us the Vedas, the Upanishads, and then they gave us Mahabharata was a commentary on the Vedas by Vyasa, and Ramayana, how a Vedic lifestyle should be led by Valmiki, and the stories of the various people who either followed the Vedic dictum or not in the Puranas. And these became the source books for our gurus and the Guru Parampara. The one single sage to whom, one single Rishi, who is also the original Guru, to whom our prostrations are to be given, first and foremost is Bhagavan Vedavyasa. All the Acharyas, starting from Shankara, Gaudapada, Ramanuja, Madhvacharya, all of them have to go into Badrikashrama in Badri, where Bhagavan Vedavyasa is in spirit. Only thing is we must have that sensitivity to communicate, that is all. And when they used to go there and they used to present their commentaries on Upanishads called Shruti Prasthana, on Bhagavad Gita called Smriti Prasthana, on Brahma Sutras called Nyaya Prasthana, submitted to Bhagavan Vedavyasa, and when Vedavyasa approves, and they become acharyas and start teaching. So in Vedavyasa, the Rishi Parampara and the Guru Parampara merge, just like the sacred Ganga and Yamuna merge in Prayaga. Prayaga means Prakarsha Yaga, extraordinarily powerful yajna, a great yajna, a jnana yajna. That was because of the confluence of the rishis and the gurus culminating in Vedavyasa, and from Vedavyasa, the Guru Parampara has continued. Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Go ahead, son.
Yeah, Namaskar. Thank you very much, Ashwat Garu, for enlightening us with all the knowledge about our gurus and rishis. We are very blessed by our guru, Ashwat Garu. Thank you very much. And there are some questions coming up. Any Sanat Kumar, Sanat, you have a question?
So I saw a question from, I will unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I saw a question from Swami, Kumar Swami. So all this happened to create Bharata. What about the universe was the question. So I have a couple of other questions. Okay.
If you see the entire Vedic wisdom and the Guru Parampara, we have to go and look at the time frame. So it is unfortunate that in India, in Bharata, for various reasons, the Rishi Parampara and the Guru Parampara was disenfranchised. Otherwise, I'm sure it would have continued. And then the Rishi Parampara in the other countries are also there. If you go to the Oxford University and Cambridge University website, you can see the Guru Parampara of chemistry, physics, and all that. They actually write a very beautiful family tree of Guru Shishya family tree, starting from people like Cavendish and Priestley and others. You can see that. So yes, the Guru Parampara and Rishi Parampara is there in every country.
Also, Bharata as a country, or geographically, was not just confined to the map that is written now. That is why we say, even if we say Bharata Kande here, it means also universe in another sense. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, it is. Because if we go to the etymology, the word Bharata,
yes, that's very good.
Yeah, it passes as Bha Atmani ye rataha te Bharata. Bha means Atman. Those who are meditating upon the self is a Bharata.
Exactly, yes.
It has nothing to do with the landmass or a person who was born in the political map of India. But anybody who is contemplating on the Atman is a Bharata, is a Bharatiya.
And we have evidence, or at least in the modern times, how it has spread to the Europe and others who have all become, even Far Eastern countries to Africa and what have you. They have become interested in learning all these things, which means perhaps at one time it was all one before the water separated into different hemispheres and land. But this is only a speculation without any real evidence, I would say. Maybe there is. The other question was rishis we talked about, and there is some classification of Brahmarshis, Rajarshis, and Maharshis. Are there like different obligations of each sect? Like, for example, Brahmarshis are empowered and also responsible for spreading all the right knowledge and the Rajarshis, Raja Yoga, or Maharshis? How is it the nomenclature, or is it all, or just like Devarshis we talked about?
Our heritage talks about, for example, Devarshis, as you said. That means any rishi that is actually also revered by the gods themselves. You know, a lot of times rishis go pray to God and they'll get something, or they will assist gods. But gods themselves revere certain rishis, and the classic example is Narada, who is a Devarshi. So a person who is revered by gods also is called Devarshi. Those who are experts in Veda is called Brahmarshi, such as Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, and the list I just gave you, Bhrigu, etc. And the highest spiritually evolved king and spiritually involved royalty, they are called as Rajashris, Ajatashatru and Janaka. That is, they were not only good administrators, but they were also very, very spiritual, and people went to them to learn. Some other day we will see, when we look at the stories from the Upanishads, the interactions, you will see Sanat Kumara actually was a rishi, was a Brahmarshi who teaches Narada. Ajatashatru teaches Sanat Kumara. So like that, there has been Rajarshis also. Then there are great sages, great because of their discovery, because of their mantras they have given. So they are called as Maharshis. For example, we also called Vyasa Maharshi, Valmiki Maharshi, because he gave Ramayana. A text of that caliber, we have not been able to create, even in the whole history of mankind. So he's called Maharshi. Then we have another class called Paramarshi. Paramarshi is who has actually realized the Paramatma, the Paramatma in himself. And there is also Shrutarshi, that is a person who is famous everywhere. So based on those characteristics, names are also given.
I see Sri Banu Sharma's name here, our president. If he is there, he can say a couple of words, and then Dr. Vidyasagar can give us the concluding remarks. Banu Sharma, are you there as president?
Yes, she is there in the panel.
Oh, okay. I'm
Unmute.
Dr. Banu Sharma is a he, so that's okay. Then Dr. Sagar will give us the concluding remarks, and then we'll say a prayer and conclude.
Yes.
Before that, can I interrupt for a few seconds?
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you, Asodji, for the session, today's session. I want to inform everyone that, we do have a YouTube channel, and the past discourses, they are all available there in case, anybody wants to go back and reference.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the hard work, Parthiban, to put it, and on behalf of Dr. Sagar, also on the other members, I'm saying.
No.
Dr. Sagar, you would agree, right?
Yes, I would agree. Before I make my final remarks, I have for Ashwaji one question of my own ignorance. You mentioned a couple of times, or many times you mentioned Janaka in Mithila, where Ashtavakra was one of the scholar there. Is the same Janaka in Ramayana we are talking about, or is different Janaka?
Actually, Janaka was more a last name. So there were, every king of Mithila was called as Janaka. And then he would have a first name too.
I see. So Ashtavakra was in the Janaka of Ramayana, or Janaka, other Janakas?
Under other Janaka. So there were, and every Janaka in that whole clan are all great Rajarshis.
Okay.
So because, for example, there was a Nabhaga, great grandfather of Sita. So she was also, he was also a Janaka. So there are the whole list of the Janakas are available. You can see that in Ramayana, and of course on the all-knowing Google.
Ashok Garu, we cannot thank you enough. Our, I'll say Sri Gurubhyo Namaha at the same time, and we thank you very much for all these illuminating lectures. We'll talk about our next programs, and it's not information about Guru Parampara has been extensively, very impressively helpful to us. I'm sure our friends all around who are joining, they're enjoying them, and I wish them to come back and participate in this program. And thank you very much. I also thank our committee, Hindu Dharma Committee, Hindu Temple, and particularly Parthiban, who's been taking a lot of effort to make this communications among ourselves very well. I thank you very much.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Om Shanti.
Shanti Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Parthiban.
Ashwat ji.